Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks to the organizers. So, the video that we just saw is really an example of what lies ahead when we talk about the Internet of Things. Those were voice-issued commands activated by the phrase, "OK Google." Now you can remove Google and put any other organization or replace that with any other command. But the essence of that video, which we actually released just 2 weeks ago, is to show the interoperability that is possible through the connectedness that we have with devices in the Internet of Things, impacting home appliances, the way we do business, the way we interact with one another, and really having a potential to transform the way we live, the way we work, and the way we interact with one another from a global perspective. Now, looking at where we are in Africa, we do have some miles to go, but actually, when we look at the trends around online adoption, we see a year-on-year increase. And so, the possibilities can actually be quite real in Africa, and we are already seeing examples of applications and solutions being developed around the Internet of Things. So I think it's quite a known fact now that the Internet has become an integral part of everyday life. Today we don't just go online, we live online. If you think about how far we've come, if you have a mobile device that is smart, then you have access to the world's information at your fingertips or in your pocket. Now that's really huge, and it's a long way from where we were a decade ago. And if you look at the global statistics, at the moment, 33% of the world's population is online. We have 700 million monthly users of WhatsApp, sending 10 billion messages every day. There are over 1 billion monthly active users on Facebook, 4 billion YouTube videos every day, 500 million daily tweets, and 100 billion searches on Google search per day. These are global figures, but it's always great to bring it home and see what the picture looks like. So if we look at Nigeria, the trend is actually quite similar. We're seeing more Nigerians getting online. At the moment, there are over 90 million internet users in Nigeria, and we've seen an increased trend in queries on search, usage of YouTube, social media, and so on. And going from the connectivity that exists with having a smart device, the world is now moving into a situation where not just computing devices are connected, but objects, appliances are all connected, creating what we refer to as the Internet of Things. And that really is a network of physical objects, devices, where you have a very close integration between hardware and software, making it possible for you to interact and perform tasks in a way that was not possible before. And this is really revolutionary. It's not a trend. A lot of people describe this as the next digital revolution. We're currently in the fourth industrial revolution. A number of African countries were in some ways left behind during the first three revolutions. There's an opportunity for us, because we don't have the baggage of legacy infrastructure, there's an opportunity for us to really accelerate development by designing solutions based on new and cutting-edge technologies to really help us advance development. And I'll talk a little bit more about this shortly. Still thinking about the Internet of Things, there are projections that by 2020, the world is going to look very different from what it is now. There's an expectation that there will be 4 billion connected people. We would have over 25 billion embedded and intelligent systems, over 25 million apps, and so on and so forth. So more and more, we're moving towards connectedness, the Internet of Things, or as we call it now, the Internet of Everything. And this is possible really with devices having first an identity, connectivity, some level of interoperability to be able to send messages and respond to commands. Some examples that we see, wearable devices. So we've gone from the mobile phone that we put in the pocket or carry around to devices that we actually wear. And we see those even in Nigeria today. For example, there are a number of people with iPhone watches or Android watches. Solutions like Fitbit and other fitness applications are becoming very popular with the wearable gear. And we're seeing a lot more. And these are, by nature, generally hands-free, always on, connected, and attention-grabbing because they're with you all the time and a lot more intuitive. And to see how far we can stretch this imagination and the possibilities, we now have what we call smart lenses. Again, talking about wearable devices. There is a project by Google in collaboration with Novartis Pharmacy, which is really about embedding a chip in your contact lens that monitors your glucose, your blood sugar levels, right? For patients with diabetes, to make sure that you don't run the risk of going low or too high on blood sugar. And even in the automotive space, we've seen a lot of sensors and beacons embedded in the road, working together with car-based sensors that are used for hands-free driving, traffic optimization, and accident avoidance. So a number of you may have heard about self-driving cars. These are already on the road. We have an experiment with self-driving cars. To date, they've exceeded 1,000 kilometers with a very good track record in terms of safety. And very soon, these will become quite mainstream. And we're also seeing a transformation of business models. For example, think of the Uber solution. Who would have thought it was possible to innovate in an industry that traditionally has been very linear? You call your taxi, it arrives, and that's all there is to it. But they've leveraged the connectivity of devices, they've leveraged GPS systems, geolocation, mobile technology to innovate around transport delivery. And that's working very well and is disrupting that industry because based on competition, other providers are now looking at ways to support or augment their services with technology. And we hear more about smart cities. They're starting to emerge, even in Africa. So I was at the World Economic Forum about three weeks ago in Kigali, and there was a lot of talk about smart cities, particularly by the Northern Corridor, which is a coalition of the some northern countries in East Africa, Kenya, Sudan, Uganda, and Rwanda. And there was a lot of conversation about smart cities. Basically, again, with the Internet of Things and the sophistication that now exists with sensors, we're able to establish platforms, applications and services like traffic management, environmental sensors, smart parking, water quality and conservation, and urban resilience. And we're starting to see some of these live right here in Africa. And McKinsey and Company actually projected that the Internet of Things has the potential to impact the economy with $3.9 trillion, and that would increase to $11.1 trillion by 2025, and that's an annual economic contribution. So really, with the backing of investors, the potential in Africa is huge. And we're seeing disruption in a number of industries. Actually, it's applicable almost to any industry today. For example, smart energy and mining, I think that's actually one of the most impacted industries to date. We're seeing sensors used to continuously monitor and detect dangerous methane levels in mines to improve workplace safety. On the energy side, we're seeing power and utilities using internet-connected smart meters to measure power usage every, say, 15 minutes. And I actually saw, I was part of an entrepreneurial pitch competition in Lagos a few months ago, and there was an entrepreneur that had developed a solution, I think it was grid systems, around being able to monitor your power usage. And that's a classic example. Also smart factories, so within the industrial sector, a manufacturing plant distributes plant monitoring and optimization tasks across several remote and interconnected control points. From a healthcare perspective, we're seeing a lot more cases of remote patient monitoring and personalized treatment, where sensors are being used to actually detect levels around, like oxygen, blood sugar, your pulse, body temperature, skin response, and a number of other various human vitals. Consumers increasingly expect convenience and demand always-on personalized service. The more data-centric we become, the more increased our ability to actually deliver that personalized service. And that's very useful in industries like banking and retail. So for example, by enabling the collection and exchange of information from objects, the Internet of Things has the potential to open up numerous opportunities for banks to provide their customers a truly personalized experience with targeted advice, offers, and insights. From a retail and logistics perspective, we're going to see many businesses forced to completely redefine their traditional value chains. For example, Uber, that's a different industry, but that's a classic example of redefining the value chain. By making traditionally physical and disconnected processes digital and connected, products and services can be processed and delivered in completely new ways. This means that traditional value chains are being totally redefined. And for retail, we're seeing more cases of product and shelf sensors collecting data throughout the supply chain. Now, examples exist. So, from an African perspective, I mentioned that when we had the first three industrial revolutions, a number of countries were left behind, and we still have quite a way to go when we talk about just basic internet connectivity, right? But we're seeing, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but we're still seeing at the moment a number of African countries starting to embrace examples of Internet of Things. From utility service providers using connected meters to track usage and preempt surges in demand or faults, to allowing healthcare providers to track the health of outpatients. We're also seeing examples of tracking technologies used in vehicles, and we have many examples of that right here in Lagos. In South Africa, there's a lot of progress around rolling out smart meters to measure household utility usage in Johannesburg. And we're seeing more cases of the retail sector embracing what we call RFID tags, radio frequency identification tags, which that's really about using intelligent barcodes to track items in a retail environment. These are some examples of things that are happening. I mentioned Rwanda earlier in the context of smart cities. So Rwanda is currently using SIM cards to connect points of sale terminals in remote areas, enabling merchants to accept credit or debit card payments. And there are a number of other examples. Of course, there are certain challenges which are on the left, and then considerations when we talk about the Internet of Things, and those are on the right. First and foremost, we're talking about connectedness. Infrastructure is a basic requirement, right? And high-speed, good quality broadband infrastructure. That's an area we still have a long way to go, and that's a basic requirement if we're talking about connectivity of things. And then capacity building as well, and that was mentioned this morning. It's important to develop the skill set so that people can really build innovative applications. I talked about grid systems in one of the startup pitches that I attended. I've actually seen a few solutions coming out of some of the tech hubs, like the Co-Creation Hub, that are actually quite interesting and innovative and are speaking to and moving in the direction of the Internet of Things. And underlying strategy to really, because, and somebody alluded to this earlier this morning, we need to look specifically at African challenges and problems and create unique solutions for them. So the recommendation is not to try to parachute a solution from the Western world into Africa. We have a unique opportunity to potentially leapfrog, because like I said earlier, we don't necessarily have as much baggage with legacy systems. And so we can design with new technologies in mind, but there needs to be a very grounded strategy around what are the problems we're trying to solve and what's the design that is going to make a difference in government and in the private sector to really bring these to life. And of course, we need to be thinking about interoperability. I won't spend too much time on the right. I think these are self-explanatory. If we have so much connectedness, then of course people would be thinking about issues like data privacy, data ownership. So much data is being collected. Who owns that data? What are my rights to that data? And things like that. And also, at the moment, it's quite fragmented. And we need to move more in a direction of standardization and protocols. So in summary, just like just basic digital technology, the internet, and now the Internet of Things, there's a huge opportunity for Africa to get on board and really create solutions that can make a difference on the continent. There is an amazing world of possibilities in a future where we're surrounded by intuitive connected devices. I know some of that may sound scary, but it really comes down to the application, and that's why it's very important to think specifically about what problems we're trying to solve and the solutions that would really enable development and move us further as a nation or as a continent. And ultimately, in spite of the barriers that exist, with a very concerted strategy, it is possible to leverage the Internet of Things to create more opportunities and solve the unique challenges that exist within Africa. Thank you.